back, everybody, to Social Studies in Isolation. Exciting day for me today. Today is the beginning of the NFL draft. By the time you watch this, the draft will be well into its process or possibly even over. But Skull Vikings, excited for the day, especially because there's not a whole lot of sports. In fact, there's really no sports going on right now. We've missed out on a lot of these things with the COVID-19, unfortunately. So I'd like to bring a little bit of that back in action. One of the things we missed out was March Madness. And so to fill that void a little bit, I bring you
Mustache Madness.
That's right, Mustache Madness. You might be able to see the bracket behind me. So how this is going to work. I have picked 16 historical figures. These historical figures have a few things in common of their accomplishments, but most importantly, they are all mustached men. So this is in response to all of the people who are being oh so critical, especially my mother, my wife, my girls, my daughters who are not appreciative of the mustache. But we have to steer into the skid, so I bring you Mustache Madness. Here's how this is going to work. I have seeded out the 16 gentlemen in history. Unfortunately, while there are mustached women in history, there's not a whole lot of them with a lot of accomplishments, so they're left out of this. So sorry, ladies, this is an all-male bracket here. How this is going to work is 2 of the figures will square off. Now, today we're going to do all 16 of them in a brief fashion. And what you need to do to help me out is you need to vote which person you think is the most fascinating and needs to move on. So not the best mustache. If you were just to pick the best mustache, you'd pick somebody like Ambrose Burnside here, and you'd be, oh, he's a great mustache. No, we're not doing that. You want to pick who do you want to learn more about. So if 2 people are faced off against each other, you vote to decide who you want me to teach you more about in the coming days. So as they win, they move on to the next round until ultimately we have the winner of Mustache Madness. So here are the 16 people that are going to be squaring off in this adventure here. So starting at the top here on the west side, we have number 1, Theodore Roosevelt, squaring off against number 8, William Howard Taft. I'll be honest here, I have a little bit of bias towards Teddy Roosevelt, big fan. So hopefully the votes go his way. So Teddy Roosevelt, 26th president. He was a governor and later on becomes a president. He was famous for his work during the Square Deal that took place. He was a big conservationist, a big naturalist, and he was a military man before all of this as a member of the Rough Riders. So if you want to know more about Teddy Roosevelt, you would vote for him. William Howard Taft, the 27th president, then follows up Teddy Roosevelt. He later on becomes a Supreme Court justice, is the only person in history to hold both the presidency and a Supreme Court position. And he is most famous, unfortunately for him, for being so obese that supposedly he was stuck in a bathtub. That is a myth, not even true, but that's kind of the big thing that people know Taft for. So Roosevelt or Taft, you get the gist. So we're going to keep moving through this. Up next, number 5, we have Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was a very famous American comic actor. He rose to fame during the silent film era. Uh-oh, studio's falling apart. We don't need that. Charlie Chaplin rose to film during the silent film era. He is considered one of the most important figures in film history. Squaring off against Charlie Chaplin, we have the famous Albert Einstein. I think you've maybe seen my video on Albert Einstein, but regarded as one of the smartest people in the history, theoretical physicist, studies the theory of relativity. So which one there, Chaplin or Einstein? Up next, we have the 6th seed, William Shakespeare, against the 3 seed, Walt Disney. Shakespeare is a little bit of a fudge here. He's kind of got more than a mustache going on, so I don't know. That might sway you a little bit. Shakespeare is a poet. He is a playwright, famous, one of the greatest writers, and often considered the greatest writer in the English language for Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, and more. Walt Disney, maybe a lot of you have been watching a lot of Disney Plus since we've been on isolation here, but entrepreneur, animator, him and his buddy Mickey Mouse have made huge waves in the entertainment industry. And then finally, to finish out the west side of the bracket, we have Martin Luther King Jr. taking on Friedrich Nietzsche. MLK Jr. I think it goes without saying, but he is a minister turned civil rights activist during the mid to late 20th century. One of the biggest impact, probably the biggest impact on the U.S. civil rights movement, going off against Friedrich Nietzsche, who is a German philosopher, a composer, a poet, who makes a major influence on modern intellectual history. So if you like philosophy, maybe you'll go there. Moving on to the east side of the bracket. Starting at the top, the 1 seed over here. Once again, we're not voting on our favorite figures in history, just the most fascinating mustached figures in history. So, starting with number 1, we have Adolf Hitler. You've covered quite a bit of Hitler if you've watched my earlier videos, but we can find out more about this German dictator trying to conquer the free world, kill the Jewish people, leading to World War II. He is taking on Ambrose Burnside, probably the most impressive mustache. But remember, we're not just voting on impressive mustaches. So Ambrose Burnside was a soldier, a railroad executive, an inventor, eventually the governor of Rhode Island, and then a senator of Rhode Island before he died. So Hitler or Burnside, who do you want to learn more about? Down the list, we have the 4 and the 5 matchup here. Number 4 is Groucho Marx. He is another actor, an American comedian, actor, writer, TV, stage, and radio star. He created 13 films with his brothers as a part of the Marx Brothers enterprise, and he's generally considered one of the greatest comedians in American history. He takes on another entertainer of sorts, and that is Mark Twain. Not actually his real name, but you maybe learn more about that if you pick Mark Twain. He is an American writer, a humorist, an entrepreneur, many great one-liners, the father of American literature, most famous for Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, as well as other things. So, once again, not his real name. If you want to learn his real name, you'll have to vote for Mark Twain. Down the list, then we go to our next matchup. We have, once again, kind of a villain in history. We have Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, rules with an iron fist over his country, eliminates most of his political competition. He is attributed to killing millions of people as the ruler of his country as he tries to push communism around the world. He takes on much less of a dictator, but Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe, very famously an American writer and poet for such works as The Raven, The Telltale Heart, and more. And finally, to round things out and finish out the mustache madness bracket, we have Mahatma Gandhi taking on Salvador Dali. So let's start with Salvador Dali first off here, the 7th seed. So Salvador Dali is a Spanish surrealist artist. He was famous for putting very bizarre images into his work, a very impressive mustache. But you might be more interested in learning about the great Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is the leader of the Indian independence movement, considered one of the fathers of the civil disobedience idea that leads to much of our movements today, using peaceful protests to get a point across. So which one do you want, Gandhi or do you want Dali? So hopefully you kind of understand how this works. You vote on each phase. Whoever moves on, I will then talk about in the next video. I'll give much more detail as we go, but since I had to do all 16 today, you just got a very brief introduction. So once you start whittling this down, you'll get a little bit more. So vote for who you are the most interested in this movement. So I need your participation, so please get out there, please place your votes, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun with it. So have a great day. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great mustache madness.